Okay, hello Team KOHR. We're going to run through what we discussed on Sunday. And the main takeaway from Sunday's session was, are you owning your Osphere or your pre-shot routine? So if you think back, we started the year, we did goal setting. We did what, how, why goals. And we talked about what, giving you the outcome, being uncontrollable. We talked about how goals, giving you the process, and why goals, giving you the motivation. We created vision boards, and we really started to look at disassociating ourselves with what we want and focusing more on how we're going to get it and why. And then we shifted gears a little bit. We started to look at the pre-shot routine, and I did a session on the pre-shot routine on Osphere and the goal of golf psychology and getting your thoughts and your feelings to match your intention. And then we broke down Osphere. And Brandon did a great session using Decade and gave you the tool of Decade to use in the ONS of Osphere. And then I talked a little bit about self-awareness. So we talked about being self-aware and understanding the thoughts that you're having. Because if you're not engaged with your thoughts, if you're not understanding the thoughts that you're having, you're going to struggle to engage in your Osphere. If you're not aware of your thoughts, you're going to struggle to focus on your visualization. You'll be unaware if you're getting distracted. So last week we did the thought tracker task, and that was to help you build awareness. And this week we really started to go into Osphere and talk about what it is that you do as part of your routine. So basically, we broke down this video that I'm about to show you. We broke it into sections, and we discussed what you would do and certain things that you can say to yourself or certain triggers that you can have in your routine that will help you not block out thoughts, but be aware if you're not focusing on the correct things. So I'm going to play this video, and then we're going to break down what we discussed in the session.
Osphere is an acronym that stands for options, selection, visualization, execution, and acceptance. These are the 5 components of a golf shot that every tour professional, yes, every tour professional will pass through when hitting to a target in competitive play. The options phase of Osphere is where the player makes observations about the environment and looks at their shot options. They may have a safe option, a moderate option, and an aggressive option. Once they've observed the environment and looked at their shot options, it's then time to select a club, a target, and a shot shape. Now, when we look at tour professionals, in this section, as they collate all this concrete data, they take in more information than the novice player. A great example of this would be someone like Phil Mickelson. Oh, you don't believe that Phil Mickelson has mastered the strategic side of golf? Well, check this out.
Tired of cold calling? The wait is finally over. When I observe golfers practicing, what is golf psychology and how?
Osphere, like Phil side of golf.
Wind, the
that goes 145 yards.
Mickelson has mastered the strategic side of golf? Well, check this out.
That goes 145 yards, let's say. Now that will vary based on temperature and altitude, and which will change with time of day and whatnot, as well as wind and those effects. But one of the things people will say is, I hit my wedge, 120. Well, you might hit a 120 under certain conditions, but in the morning, ball's not going to go 120. Maybe in the afternoon when it's warmer and the ball heats up, but it's going to go 5 to 10 yards shorter in the morning. People don't factor that in. If you get a little bit of water in between the club face and the ball, people don't know, it actually increases spin, causes it to go shorter. The first cut always comes out 6 to 8 yards dead. If the grain is into you, it's going to launch and hit lower on the face, launch lower, have more spin. If it's down grain, the club slides a little bit quicker, you'll get more out of it. If it's sitting up on zoysia or off of a tee, always goes 5 yards farther with each iron, based on the fact that the center of gravity is underneath the ball and it launches higher, a little bit less spin. All these things I have to factor in when I look at the lie. Okay, how is the lie and how is the ball going to come out relative to my 145 9 iron? Now, that's 10 off a stock, so I have a normal swing,
Right.
and then I have a second swing for every iron shot, and it's a little bit shorter backswing with the same acceleration. So I have a 145 and a 155 yard shot. What is the lie going to do? What's the temperature? What's the wind? How do I want the ball coming into the green?
So we spoke in class about Phil Mickelson and what he does when he is going through his O and his S of Osphere. So his brain is like a supercomputer, and his brain takes in all of these details because Phil Mickelson is very, very, very experienced as a golfer. Now, should your O and S of Osphere, should your options and selection in your pre-shot routine be that detailed? Absolutely not, because you're younger, you're less experienced, and it takes time to become as good as Phil Mickelson. So if one day you want to play on the PGA Tour or maybe the LPGA Tour, that is the kind of level that we want to strive for. But for right now, what we asked you to do in class is just write down what you look at in options and what you do in selection. And ultimately, I gave the class their selection because we select 3 things. We select a shot shape, we select a target, and we select a club. So you go through all these observations and you run through all your options, and ultimately you're doing that so you can select a shot shape, a club, and a target. Now, one thing as well that we discussed in class, and this is where the self-awareness comes in, because if you're getting distracted, you're going to forget to ask yourself this. So the work we did last week on the thought tracker really helps you understand where your thoughts go and helps you focus them into the right areas. And something that we all agreed we're going to focus on next year is when you select your target, and I want everyone to write this down. When you select your target, you will ask yourself, if I hit 10 shots at this target, how many go where I don't want them to go? So imagine there's water on the left and the pin's 15 feet on from the left. And in class, we drew this. If you hit 10 shots at the target, it's only 15 feet away from the water, how many will go in the water? And a lot of people were saying, oh, it's going to be 5 or it's going to be 6. So we talked about moving the target way more to the right. And then you ask yourself, how many would go in the water now? If I hit 10 balls at my new target, how many would go in the water? And once you get it down to 1, or once you get it down to 0, that's probably a good target. Because in junior golf in the Northeast, if you want to win, and we talked about winning, so this was the first week we talked about real big outcomes and we talked about winning, you don't have to take unnecessary risks. Playing smart, playing safe, and avoiding penalty shots is a great strategy to help you win. So we're not asking you to be like Phil Mickelson and taking all that information, but we are asking you to probably do a little bit more in your ONS of Ozsphere this year than you did last year, and asking yourself that power question. If I hit 10 balls at this target, how many go where I don't want them to go, is a great piece of self-talk that you can have in your O and S section of Ozsphere. So now let's move on to visualization, and let's look at Jason Day and how Jason Day visualizes golf shots.
There we have it. Phil Mickelson, an expert performer. And during the option and selection phases of his routine, he takes in massive amounts of information about the variables in the environment, uses that to build his shot options, and then selects targets, a club, and a shot shape. Now, the elite performer moves into the next component of the pre-shot routine, which is visualization. The goal of visualization is to take this concrete data that was collated during the options and selection phases and now begin to turn it into something more sensory. So visualization can be use of imagery, can be use of sound, or can be use of feel. An incredible example of a player that takes the concrete data and turns it into something more sensory through visualization is Jason Day. So don't take my word for this. Let's take a time out and check out what Jason Day does during his routine.
One of the things that we saw a lot on TV when at the PGA was just your pre-visualization routine, when before the shot, and you're very consistent with it. And we'd love to just hear your thoughts about, talk us through the routine, and we'll go through your mind.
It's kind of been a work in progress over the years, really just trying to trial and error more so, just kind of get the best way or the most efficient way for me to feel comfortable going into a shot, right? Because at the end of the day, every golfer goes through a shot where some days they'll be concentrating a little bit more, and some days they won't be concentrating as hard as they were. And sometimes they'll go into a shot and not really think about it and hit a shot, and it'll go into the trees and wonder why. And you just weren't concentrating hard enough on your target. So, I used to visualize. I used to struggle visualizing with my eyes open, really trying to pick a shot, whether it was a fade or a draw or a high-low. So my coach one day, Colin, said, "Why don't you just close your eyes? Aaron Badley does it." So I started closing my eyes at a very young age. I was like 14, 15 years old. So I started closing my eyes, and that's kind of how that came along. But really, it's very simple. I try and I take 2 practice swings before my shot. I just really try and mimic what I'm trying to accomplish. And for the most part, I'm just trying to hit a high bomb draw. So I just try and get the feeling of getting the club on the inside just a little bit, because that's where I feel the most powerful, is just getting the club on the inside. And then when I come back, I close my eyes. And when I close my eyes, I see a picture of myself standing like right here. So I'm standing there. I'm about to hit the shot, and I visualize my swing, go back, and then go through, and I see the ball come out. And then I see how it goes, where it lands, and how it bounces. So when I close my eyes, I visualize that, and I make sure, especially last week, I make sure that I don't hit the shot or don't stop visualizing until I'm fully comfortable with that visual. So after I do that, then I come in, and say for instance, I'm picking the tower. I'll be coming in, looking at the tower, but I know where the ball is because I've got my awareness of the ball. And then once I change my eyes to the ball, my awareness is going back out to that tower, and then I look up to the tower and know exactly where it is. and then I come back, throw my awareness back at the ball, and then I stand over it. And my last thing is taking that one little, kind of, I guess, that little, because we're so static, I just don't want to go straight back. So I just want to make sure that I have that one little waggle, and then think about my target and just hit it as hard as I can. So the biggest thing is to aim small, miss small. It's like when you're shooting at a target, right? You don't shoot at the whole target, especially if you have a gun or a bow and arrow. You're trying to hit that little centerpiece. So with golf, it's hard to kind of hit golf balls like this, because you can't.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing for me is to really kind of visual and think about my target.
Yeah.
And then I just go ahead and just hit it as hard as I can.
Interesting.
So that's kind of how I go about my pre-shot routine. And there's a lot of stuff that goes into it, but lately I've been very disciplined enough to go and say I'm not going to hit the shot until I'm comfortable.
You feel ready?
Yeah, ready.
Yeah. Do you do that on like what kind of shots? Do you do that on every shot?
I do it on every shot.
Yeah.
So there we have it. An incredible insight into how Jason Day uses visualization to change concrete data from the options and selection phase and turn it into something more sensory, ready to help his brain and body connect and execute the golf shot.
So again, just like we don't expect you to have the ONS of Phil Mickelson, we don't expect you to have the visualization, the V of Jason Day. But in class, I asked everyone to write down, what do they do in visualization? Do you like to feel it? Do you like to hear it? Do you like to see it? Is it a combination? Or don't you know? And if you don't know, that's fine. If you write down V, visualization, coach, I need some help with this. Because when we get outside and we start doing testing and we start doing more performance games and we start seeing ball flight, we're going to work on these pre-shot routines. And what I explained is I'm not looking for the finished product today. I want to know where these areas for development are. So ONS, we're not expecting you to be Phil Mickelson, but we want you to work towards that. And asking yourself that question was one way. Visualization, we're not expecting you to be Jason Day. We're really not. But you can listen to that. You can think what you do now. And together we can work and evolve on that when we get outside. Now, execution, we all know what Jordan Spieth does in his execution to silence the chimp, because we've watched that video already. And ultimately, Jordan Spieth, when he silences the chimp, he's quite simply trying to feel the practice swing. He's not focused on making birdie. He's not focused on winning. He's focused on just simply recreating the feelings of the practice swing. So where do you put your mind? How do you silence your inner chimp? If we have a little bit more awareness, which hopefully we worked on last week, we should know when the chimp's coming. So what's your strategy in E of Osphere to silence the chimp? Are you focused on the target? Are you focused on your breathing? Are you focused on balance? Are you focused on tempo? Are you focused on tension? Or again, don't you know? And if you don't know, it's totally okay to say, coach, I really don't know. And I explained again that junior golf, it's not about making birdie after birdie after birdie to win. If in junior golf, you can select smart targets and ask yourself that question, if in junior golf, you can feel, see, or hear the shot, and then if in junior golf, you can silence the chimp, if you can do those three things in tournaments, you will play well. And you'll be in control. So more importantly, you'll have a lot more fun while you're doing so. So as we're on this call and as we were in class, we were all writing down where we're at. So I'm going to click play now, and we're going to see maybe the best person in the history of the world at silencing the chimp, Tiger Woods. And then we're going to hear a little bit about what a pro golfer does called Jim Furyk in his A of Osphere, in his acceptance.
Jordan Spieth is focused on recreating.
Check out this verbo.
Oh man.
Michael, they're your cousins.
Creating the same feels that he felt in his practice swing. This is a strategy that allows his mind to silence that inner chimp, to avoid focusing on threatening stimuli. Perhaps the all-time great at keeping the inner chimp quiet may be Tiger Woods. Remember this? Expect anything different? The fifth and final component of Osphere, acceptance. Players that can accept the outcome of the shot have an increased chance of hitting every single one of these steps next time they approach the golf ball. Players that struggle to accept the outcome, experience anger, stress, frustration, could potentially miss steps next time they approach the golf ball. And ultimately, this can have an adverse effect on their shot. A great example of a tour player who engages in acceptance to such a high level is Jim Furyk. After every shot, Jim Furyk analyzes his process, and sometimes if he's unhappy with the outcome, he'll even re-hit an imaginary shot, trying to recreate and simulate what he's just been through and enhance his process for next time he approaches the golf ball. Now, imagine this. Imagine empowering one of your students to go through shot options and selection to the level of Phil Mickelson. Now imagine if this same student had a visualization process like Jason Day. Then imagine if they could keep the chimp quiet to the extent of Tiger Woods, and then finally accept shots like Jim Furyk. Empowering this.
So that is what we would want to be working towards. We want to look at the best players in the world. We want to see what they do, and we want to model that. But we're not going to get there tomorrow. If you guys were to wake up tomorrow morning and be like, right, I'm going to do all of that on every shot, you'd probably play worse because it's too much. So I want you to think about, where are you with your O and S of Osphere? Where are you with your V of Osphere, visualization? Where are you at silencing the chimp? And how good are you accepting? Do you take a breath in your post-shot routine to accept? Do you have a process scorecard like we talked about? Do you keep score for process to keep your mind away from outcome? So have a think where you're at. And I want everyone to have these notes in their journals, because towards the end of winter training, when the golf coach, when you meet with the golf coaches and discuss your tournament schedules, make sure that your coach now's working. When you do all that housekeeping, I'll actually be in the main room helping people work on their routines. The only way that I can help you to the best of your ability is if you're honest. So again, the minimum requirements: you assess your lie, you look at the wind, and you select a target, a shot shape, and a club. And you ask yourself that one question: if I hit 10 balls at this target, how many go where I don't want them to go? That can be it. If you do that on every shot, that would be great. Then some form of visualization, feel, see, hear, or a combination. Then silence the chimp. Do we breathe? Do we focus on balance? Do we focus on grip pressure? And then once we silence the chimp, how do we accept? If you can do those basic steps in a junior tournament, always be trying to get them better, you will have certain level of success this year, and you also enjoy playing golf a lot more. So I'm going to share my screen again, and we'll finish shortly. But I want to show you this. So this was a sheet that some of the groups looked at. Some of the groups, we got a little bit hung up on ONS, and we talked for a long time about strategy and about the best strategies to win golf tournaments, which was great. I don't mind that at all. I thought they were very, very, very good conversations that we had in class. But what I did want to do in class that we never got to was this. So this is a great way not only to gain awareness of your thoughts, like we talked about a week ago, but actually start to take those thoughts and turn them into positives. So for example, I work with a college player, and this college player was playing very well in a tournament, and she's actually ranked inside the top 50 women amateur golfers in the world. She missed a 3-foot putt, and then she missed a 6-foot putt. And she said, I don't know why I bother. I should just quit. I'm never going to make it on the tour. That was her negative thought. I don't know why I bother. I should just quit. I'm never going to make it on tour. So very, very negative. And only after the round and talking to me did she realize that she was saying such a harmful thing. So what we did was we identified the non-truth in that statement. I'm never going to make it on tour. That's not true. Just because you missed a 3-foot putt and a 6-foot putt in a tournament doesn't mean you're never going to make it on tour. So she had those thoughts. We identified the non-truth. The non-truth was, I'm never going to make it on tour. And then the reframe could have been something like, okay, I've missed a 3-foot putt and I've missed a 6-foot putt. Let's use that to drive me deeper into my visualization. Let's use those misses to help me slow myself down and do better routines for the remainder of the round. Let's use those misses to help me focus on pace a little bit more. So what I want us to work towards at KOHR, and we'll do this throughout the season, not only having awareness from tracking our thoughts, but going into more detail. What are the specific negative thoughts that we have? What do we say to ourselves? What is our negative self-talk? Let's find the non-truths in that self-talk, and then let's teach ourselves to reframe those into positive thoughts. So this is quite a long process, and this is not easy to do. So we'll talk a little bit more about this next week before we start talking a bit about how we have to practice when you're away from KOHR to help you master your process focus and your OSPHERE. Guys, thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate it. I'm going to stop the recording now. I'll upload this onto YouTube. If anyone has any questions,